When it comes to making patches or applique, you have quite a few options as far as tacking the fabric in place before you do the final cover stitch. I'll start with a blanket stitch. It's fairly simple. And let's go to stitch view and let's see if we can make it show up. You'll draw your shape, whatever size you need it to be. This one happens to be about 3 inches. And then you will either duplicate it or cut and copy. And then this, you'll use your blanket stitch. But it's always best when you use any of the run stitches, make a straight stitch shape to begin with and then convert it. You have more control over it that way. And then you'll go back to your original and duplicate it again and use your satin stitch to cover it. Now it may take widening the cover stitch to make sure you're catching your edges. To do that, you can right click, get the object properties, and then change the width. On this blanket stitch I had to go quite a bit wider. My average, I rarely do anything under 3 millimeter for the edge of a patch. I like the stitch to wrap completely over the edge. So 3 to 5 is what I normally do. For the blanket stitch, I found that I needed to go a little bit more to cover it better. Okay. The zigzag is just what you would think. You start with your 3-inch circle, copy and paste it or duplicate it. And to duplicate things, one of the easiest ways is to right click and drag. I'm going to hit Control Z to take that off. And if that is not easy for you to master, sometimes making the mouse do what you want in that way is difficult. You're back to just, now I have these grouped, but you would select the one. I'll hit Alt and then I can select just the one piece by holding the Alt key, and I can Control C, Control V, Zim Victor to paste, or I can merely hit Control D and it will hit in the same place. The offset single run is similar to what OESD uses on theirs. I'd taken a class there and realized what they were doing. I thought was really clever. So they have, again, this is grouped. They will do a placement stitch and then they'll do 2 running stitches. One is slightly smaller, perhaps a millimeter smaller than the first. And this allows you to cut your fabric really close without risking cutting the stitches. Sometimes you'll nick a zigzag stitch when you're trying to trim it. Blanket stitch has that nice hard edge, so you're not as apt to nick that one, but it's hard to tell where the blanket stitch is going to fall. So they all have pluses and minuses. You'll have to play and figure out what does work the best for you. Now the very easiest is convert to applique. I'm using Bernina Designer Plus, but this is also available to you in the Bernina Creator version 9 and earlier versions of the Bernina software. 8, I believe is when it started, perhaps 7. But I want you to see how fast this is. I'm going to just digitize a circle. Then I'll select that circle, go to my applique toolbox, and with one click I convert that to applique. And your color film has two different views. It shows you by color how things are on your screen, but if I click it again, now it shows me that's my placement stitch of this applique that we just made. That's my tack down stitch. It's very similar to one that I draw myself. I'll show you that one in a minute. And then there's your cover. I used to be disappointed in this because I didn't think I could change anything. But now I know, and seeing it comes in grouped, now I do know that you can right click to get your properties, and you have options. You can change any of these components without having to break the applique or the patch apart. Okay, so let's go ahead and delete that. We don't need him. When I'm doing an applique for myself, my favorite is to use a stitch that I have drawn myself. Let's zoom in on that. It's very similar to the square zigzag that the automatic buttonhole does, but I have more control over it. What I did to create this is I put my grid on 2mm squares, and now I've moved it since I created it. So I used the grid to create this. So I'll draw a straight line that goes from 2mm across up to the center and back down, and those are 2mm apart. Then you use and I've shown you this on other videos, with it selected. Oh, I have that grouped, is why I won't. But with it selected by itself, you would go to settings and then create a pattern. I'm going to touch 1 on my keyboard to show regular size. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the grid. It's just noise at this point. But then I can use this as a pattern run myself by coming to the pattern run icon, right clicking, and then I can go into the designs that I've created, and it would be here. But I have more control over that one than I do the one that's in the automatic applique. But the advantage to the automatic is it's one click and you're finished. The one that I do use the most, all of them that I've shown you up to this point, are designed so that you can draw or stitch a placement line on your, I use Badge Master as my stabilizer, just one layer of Badge Master, and then I'll stitch my placement line. These appliques and patches, you would lay a square or any odd shape of your fabric, stitch the tack down, trim with your scissors, and then go back in and do your satin stitch. Well, the patches that we make are pre-cut. We cut them on a cameo using tackle twill that has an adhesive backing. It's a we don't have to use an iron to set it into place. So all I need is the placement line so that I know where to put my patch, and then I'll lay my patch into place, making sure that I've got it lined up with the placement line. And then this is a run stitch that holds the patch in place. Then we'll sew whatever it is that we're going to put on the patch, and then we come back in using the same outside edge. It's at 3 inches right now, so that line is going to be my cover stitch, and I'll put a nice satin stitch around everything to complete the patch. Now, Bernina has a built-in export cutting file, And I'm not sure if that showed up in 8, but I do know that it's in 9, and I kind of think it's in Creator, and I know that it's in Designer. That's what I'm using. So to export the cutting file, let me get to where I know I've got just a single one somewhere. There's one. Okay, so we're going to say we want our cutting machine to cut this. I'll select that one circle, and this is in the Applique tab. I'll go to the Export Cutting File. My embroidery shape, I'm going to leave at Bernina EXP. My applique shapes will be the SVG that the cutter reads. And this one I'm not really using. I don't know if I can turn it off. Doesn't look so. See, it's grayed out here. Now pay attention to where these files go. This is the default. I haven't bothered to change it, but you could certainly change it to export wherever you'd like to have it on your computer by using the browse button. So I've already done this, so I'll hit cancel. And so here's my path. This was the same path that was directed in the software. Your local disk C, users. Mine is, my computer is called Gina B. My embroidery and my cutting files. And what we'll see there, let's change our view and see what shows up for us. So, of course, Adobe Illustrator doesn't give us thumbnails. So I only get the icon for Adobe Illustrator. But that's the one that we're going to send to the cutting machine to cut those patches out before we start the patch. Thanks for watching.